A baby sea turtle hatches on a beach in Florida, crawls into the Atlantic, and disappears for years. Then, as an adult, she crosses thousands of kilometers of open ocean and washes up on the exact same stretch of sand where she was born. She had no GPS, no landmarks, no trail to follow. She memorized the magnetic fingerprint of her birth beach before she ever saw the ocean, and she carried that invisible address her entire life. Turtles aren't the only ones. Birds, lobsters, and even your dog appear to carry a built-in compass, and the way it works might involve quantum physics. The Lohman Lab at the University of North Carolina has been studying sea turtle navigation for decades, and their findings published in Current Biology changed how biologists think about animal orientation. Loggerhead sea turtles nesting along the Florida coast do not simply follow currents or coastline shapes. They respond to the magnetic field of the Earth itself. Each section of coastline has a slightly different combination of magnetic intensity and inclination angle, the way field lines tilt relative to the surface. That combination forms a kind of magnetic address unique to each stretch of beach. According to the Lohman Lab's research, the turtles imprint on that magnetic signature as hatchlings, before they have ever left the sand. Years later, when it is time to lay their own eggs, they navigate back to a coastal area with a matching magnetic signature. The evidence for this came from tracking nesting populations over time. As Earth's magnetic field shifts gradually, the magnetic signature of a given coastline drifts. The Lohman Lab found that nesting density on specific beaches changed in tandem with those magnetic shifts. When two previously distinct beaches drifted toward similar magnetic signatures, turtle nesting patterns converged on those beaches. When signatures diverged, so did the turtles. The animals were not returning to a fixed spot on a map. They were returning to a magnetic coordinate, and when that coordinate moved, they followed it. The European robin migrates at night. It flies thousands of kilometers between Scandinavia and the Mediterranean, navigating in total darkness. Researchers have known since the 1960s that robins orient using the Earth's magnetic field. Turning off the magnetic cues in a laboratory scrambles their sense of direction. But the question that took decades to answer was how. What structure in the bird's body can detect something as weak as the Earth's magnetic field, a force so faint you cannot feel it on your skin? The answer appears to sit inside the robin's eye. In 2021, a joint team from the University of Oldenburg and the University of Oxford published a study in Nature showing that a protein called cryptochrome 4, found in the retinas of European robins, is magnetically sensitive. According to the study reported by Science Daily, the Oldenburg team extracted the genetic code for cryptochrome 4 from robin retinal cells, produced the protein in bacterial cultures, and shipped it to Oxford. There, chemists demonstrated that the protein responds to magnetic fields through a process called the radical pair mechanism. When blue light hits cryptochrome 4, it kicks an electron along a chain of amino acids inside the protein. That electron transfer creates a pair of molecules, each carrying an unpaired electron. Those two unpaired electrons exist in a shared quantum state, spinning in sync. The orientation of the Earth's magnetic field influences how long that shared state lasts, and that tiny difference in timing changes the chemical output of the protein. The bird's brain reads that chemical signal, and according to the leading theory, it perceives the magnetic field as a visual pattern overlaid on its normal site. The robin may not feel the magnetic field. It may see it like a shadow or a color gradient across its field of vision. This is quantum biology in a living animal. The radical pair mechanism depends on quantum spin coherence, a property that engineers struggle to maintain in laboratory conditions at near absolute zero. Inside a warm, wet bird retina, the protein pulls it off at body temperature. Physicists had assumed that biological tissue was too noisy, too warm, too chaotic for quantum effects to survive long enough to matter. The robin's eye proved them wrong. Research published by the Moritzen Group at Oldenburg found that robins initially have a working magnetic compass in both eyes. But as they mature through their first migratory season, the compass lateralizes. Adult robins process magnetic compass information predominantly through the right eye and left brain hemisphere. Cover the right eye and the compass fails. Cover the left eye and they orient just fine. The magnetic sense is not a passive background signal. It is wired into the bird's visual processing system with the same kind of lateralization you see in human-handedness. Turtles imprint on a magnetic address. Robins see the magnetic field through a quantum protein in their eyes. Both strategies are elegant, but both are also vertebrate solutions. In 2003, a study published in Nature revealed that an invertebrate had cracked the same problem with a completely different toolkit. If you are enjoying this, consider subscribing. There are more stories like this on the channel every week. Caribbean spiny lobsters live in the coral reefs of the Florida Keys. According to the Nature study led by the Lohmann Lab, researchers captured lobsters from their home reefs and displaced them to unfamiliar sites 12 to 37 kilometers away, in random directions. The lobsters were transported in sealed containers with no visual, chemical, or inertial cues available during the trip. When released on the unfamiliar seafloor, the lobsters oriented toward their home reef. They did not wander. They did not search. They pointed themselves in the correct direction and started walking. This was the first demonstration of true navigation in any invertebrate. True navigation means determining your position relative to a goal without using familiar landmarks, cues from the destination itself, or information gathered during the outward journey. Before this study, only vertebrates had shown this ability. The spiny lobster possesses both a magnetic compass sense, the ability to determine direction, and a magnetic map sense, the ability to determine position. Those two senses working together allow the lobster to solve a problem that requires, at minimum, knowing where you are and which way home is. Nobody has found a cryptochrome-based mechanism in lobsters. The current hypothesis involves magnetite, tiny crystals of iron oxide found in the tissues of many magnetically sensitive animals. Magnetotic bacteria, among the simplest organisms on Earth, build internal chains of magnetite nanoparticles that physically rotate the bacterium to align with magnetic field lines. Larger animals may use similar iron-based particles as a mechanical compass, though no one has conclusively identified the magnetite receptor cells in a lobster, a bee, or a bird. Then there is the dog study. In 2013, a team led by Heineck Berta published a paper in Frontiers in Zoology that tracked the body alignment of 70 dogs across 37 breeds during nearly 2,000 defecation events and over 5,000 urination events. According to the study, which is available through the National Center for Biotechnology Information, dogs prefer to align their bodies along the north-south axis when relieving themselves, but only under calm geomagnetic conditions. When the Earth's magnetic field was disturbed by solar activity, the preference disappeared. The alignment was not random and not explainable by wind direction, sun position, or terrain. The study won the 2014 Ig Nobel Prize in Biology, which honors research that makes you laugh and then makes you think. The dog finding is odd because nobody knows why a dog would care about magnetic alignment during such a mundane activity. It is not prey detection. One hypothesis is that the behavior is a relic of a more sophisticated magnetic sense that the domestic dog no longer relies on, like a vestigial organ expressed through habit rather than anatomy. Wolves, foxes, and coyotes may use magnetoreception more actively. So you have at least 3 separate mechanisms. Turtles read magnetic intensity and inclination like a postal code. Robins detect field orientation through a quantum chemical reaction in a retinal protein. Lobsters use some form of magnetic map that no one has fully identified yet. Dogs align with the field. For reasons nobody bacteriaceae carry literal iron compasses that rotate their entire bodies. These are not variations on one design. They are independent solutions to the same invisible problem, evolved separately across kingdoms of life that diverged hundreds of millions of years ago. And the quantum piece is what keeps physicists up at night. If a bird retina can maintain quantum coherence at 38 degrees Celsius in a noisy biological environment, surrounded by molecular vibrations that should destroy the signal in nanoseconds, then living systems may be far better at exploiting quantum effects than anyone assumed. The European robin does not need a sterile lab or a supercooled vacuum chamber. It manages with a wet eyeball and a few photons of blue light. We have known about animal magnetoreception since the 1960s. We have had hard evidence for the quantum mechanism since 2021. We still do not know which cells in a lobster detect the magnetic field. We still do not know why dogs care about north. We still cannot build a synthetic compass that works as well as the one inside a robin's eye. The Earth has been broadcasting its magnetic field for billions of years, and dozens of species figured out how to listen. We are still learning the language. If you want more stories about animals that break the rules, there are plenty on the channel.